Welcome to the RSP Film Room. I am Steve Barkowski, and joining me today is Alfred Jenkins. You remember Alfred Jenkins, Turron?
Yes. Okay.
I'm here with Turron Davenport from Football Gameplan, and I'm Matt Waldman with the Rookie Scouting Portfolio. This is episode number 68. And Turron is a guest that I always enjoy having on here. And way back in, I don't know, September, October, we talked about doing a show. And the guy that Turron recommended was Darunya Wilson, the Mississippi State wide receiver, 6'5", 215-pound prospect. Turron, tell us why you wanted to watch Darunya Wilson.
Well, I wanted to take a look at him with you because I wanted to look at his ability to get off the line of scrimmage, his red zone ability. Really, I wanted us together to find out, is this guy Kelvin Benjamin or Marlon Brown? That's really what I wanted to find out.
Ooh, that's a very good question. Yeah, and I had a soft spot for Marlon Brown, so I certainly understand where you're coming from, though, in terms of that. So in that terms of a range, and it's still not a bad range if you're talking about somebody who's going to get a chance or a cup of coffee or a shot in the NFL and see what they can make of it. But certainly, we'd all love to see any player get compared to the Kelvin Benjamin end of the spectrum at this phase of the game. So,
right.
With that in mind, if you're new to the RSP Film Room and you haven't seen any of the 60 some odd episodes, this is just a couple of guys who are, either were football writers or former football players. And in the case of Turron here, who was a college wide receiver and did some work at the CFL level, we're watching tape, guys, and just talking about what we see, trading notes about what we observe when we're watching talent, how we would evaluate that talent based on the small sample we're seeing today. So for folks, if you're watching this video and you're wanting to comment on YouTube, and you're going to comment anyway what you want to comment, but I will forward, kind of preface it and say that we are not basing a definitive evaluation on one game. We are basically saying, in theory, if this is what player X shows game after game after game, then this is how we would conclude with it. It's more of a theoretical academic exercise in that standpoint of how we're looking at tape. So it's two guys studying tape and how we study it and talking about the game and learning from each other, as well as, giving people in the audience an opportunity to kind of see how it's done and just learn another point of view about, what they may already know or something that they haven't seen before. So with that mouthful in mind, let me do one last thing, and we will get started with watching the tape that we're going to see, which is the LSU game. And that's just to let everybody know that the videos here posted at the RSP Film Room are not hosted on the server, and that the original content of this video is not considered the property of the RSP Film Room. The videos are considered to be used under the fair use doctrine of the United States Copyright Law, Title 17, U.S. Codes 107 through 118, and the videos are used on this site for editorial and educational purposes only, and that the RSP Film Room and its staff do not claim ownership of any original video content, and that the RSP Film Room staff don't use any of the video clips in advertisements, marketing, for direct financial gain. All the video content of each clip is considered created by the individual broadcast companies. We're going to Draft Breakdown to look at this. They do great work, and we're just looking at cut-ups that they made to talk about really what we can learn from this football player as a wide receiver, as well as about evaluation techniques used to evaluate, wide receivers. So that's the mouthful. We're done with that. We're going to get started.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get this going. And let's see, Mr. Wilson right there. I'm going to pop this up right this way.
One thing you see right away from that picture is he passes the off the bus test, man. Visually, he's definitely he fits the bill of a red zone receiver.
Absolutely does fit that bill. So, and we're not talking about the car parts here either. Let's see. Here we go. Though he definitely looks like he's got a pretty big engine block going on here in terms of, like, he looks like someone that can definitely keep up all game long. So we're going to get him started. And we're going to test drive what we got going on here. Let's see. All right. Top of the page. And I mean, I'd love for you to share with us from your experiences and from the coaching you've gotten, and what's basically taught about run blocking for wide receivers at, say, difference from the high school level to the college level, and then moving onward from there.
Well, I think one thing that's really different, especially at the college level and even going to the pro level, is in blocking. It really becomes something that you have to have a burning desire to do. And you look at this as a guy that's a 6'5", 200-pound guy. You would like to see more effort here. What we used to do in college, we used to, and I coined the term. We would count how many pancakes we would get as receivers because we took that much pride in blocking, and we would call them Plaxicos. And it was after a film. I saw Plaxico. I forget who it was, but it was a smaller DB, and obviously he's a bigger receiver, and he just grabbed the DB like this and just threw him down. And from then on, I said, you know what? That's what we're going to call it. We're going to call our pancakes Plaxicos. And in this one right here with him, you don't see that aggressiveness that you want from a big receiver. And when you have that play coming to your side, you really have to block that. You have to make sure that your guy is not the one that's in on the tackle, and that's a problem that I saw with this one.
Yeah, and I think that looking at it, I mean, we can break it down even a little bit slower here, and just look at, even if you're being kind, you're saying, I mean, right about at the numbers where he was at just a second before, you want to see him really close the gap quicker,
right,
and shoot those arms in there. And right now he's just kind of tentative. He's letting the defender get the first contact. And then at this point, I mean, I like the fact that he cleans it up enough that he can get position here and be in a spot where he could move the receiver to the boundary. But the effort, like you said, isn't there. And if this receiver, the running back, gets into the space, what Wilson did was, sad to say, it was worthless for this running play.
Yep. And you notice with this one being a pass play, you see how his release is different?
Yeah.
He's much more aggressive off the line of scrimmage. Now, going from college to pro, this is something that and mind you, this corner that he's going, that's Trey Davis White, and he's an NFL level corner. And these guys that are ready to go pro, they look at these things, and they see him releasing off the line of scrimmage differently. They know it's a pass play.
Yeah. Absolutely do. And you got to have that consistency from play to play, because you want to be able to disguise the run. You want to disguise that it's a run block. It gives you a chance to either run off the receiver or run off the defender, or at least get an advantage to turn right inside and make that contact when the defender doesn't expect it. So yeah. And obviously we're doing this half speed, so I was for a minute there, I forgot about that and was about to comment on how slow he looked coming off the line of scrimmage there with his feet. But yeah, we are at half speed, folks.
And see, when you have a bigger receiver like that, you have the saying size matters, and it definitely matters, but it not only matters on the physical side, it matters on what's inside of you, your heart and your mental side. And that's something I wanted to look at together. And if you look at Kelvin Benjamin, a lot of the things that he did coming off the line of scrimmage and blocking, there were times where he dominated defensive backs. And that's something I want to see from Duranya here. And we're not seeing that, at least in the first play. Now, granted, he wasn't the key receiver on this one, so it's a different situation. But you would like to see him be a little more aggressive.
Yeah.
Now, looking at this play, now this is one where as a big receiver, you have to know how to use your body to shield the defender. And you want to attack the football. If you notice, his hands are kind of back this way. Now, if he could extend his hands a little more and bring that football, because I think his reach is something like 35 inches or something along that line. So he should be able to pluck this ball out of the air.
Yeah. And when your elbows are almost into your chest while you're reaching your forearms out like that, you're not really attacking the ball, like you said.
And that's
And
important.
yeah, yeah. And yes, there's an oncoming, you could make the argument, look, this cornerback peeling off here to level this, to level him there. I get you. I mean, I can see where that he may have dropped this no matter what. but at the same time, your best receivers make this catch.
Right, because you're going to get hit regardless. So why not get hit and get a little glory? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of this is one of those situations where you kind of question the heart. And again, it goes back to the guy being 6'5", 200 plus pounds. You are supposed to make this catch in traffic, absorb that hit, and it's supposed to be a completion.
And here's another thing that I would add, if I'm going to be more of an apologist to what he did here, but combine your analysis that I thought was so good about reaching for the ball. If you're going to fully extend and attack this ball, the nice thing about being able to do that is that if you reach out and grab that ball with your arms fully extended, you're also setting a motion where you're going to be able to grab that ball and then move your torso a little bit faster, so that you can turn that ball away from your body and turn your shoulder away from this oncoming hit. And most likely, and you see some of the best receivers do this, is that when they go up for the ball right here, he's going to have his hands fully out. He's going to make the catch. He's going to rotate his trunk. And when this number 17 delivers the hit, most likely he's either going to glance off the back shoulder or he's going to completely miss Wilson and hit his own man. And
Right.
Wilson's up the sideline for another 10, 15 yards.
Exactly. That's a great point.
So, I mean, it's little things that that really do separate, the high school, the college, and the pro receiver. And at this point, you're looking at a guy who, needs to have a little bit more refinement there, because look at the hands. And even the way the hands are set up, he's doing that clapping motion like he's applauding rather than a mesh. And, if you're going to catch the ball with this applauding motion, then you might as well just be someone in the stands, because it's not, you're not even getting the control there, because the backstop that you're getting with the ball is going to be your chest rather than your palm.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't catch the ball with the chest. And it's funny, one of my receiver coaches, whenever there was a receiver that had his hands placed like that, not position correct, he would say, "Son, you're not going to catch the ball with your wrist." And that's the truth. And if you make that just like that, you make that nice resting space for the ball, when it comes in, it just stops right there. And then it's just natural. You bring it and it comes right into the tuck. And it goes back to what you said about, as you tuck it, you just turn naturally, and that's how you absorb those big hits. Even a guy small like me, 6 feet, 190 something pounds, you can make a catch like that in traffic if you know how to absorb the hit. And in this case, he just left himself wide open to be hit that way.
Yeah, I mean, Derek Mason was great at going over the middle and making catches. And you wouldn't, and he wouldn't take that kind of punishment. Tim Brown wasn't a big guy and certainly could do it. So, yeah. What I also noticed with him, and we're starting off with a fairly critical look at what's going on with Mr. Wilson here, but he's pretty exaggerated with how he comes off the line of scrimmage. I mean, big loping movement. And to me, that kind of tips off what you're doing. Even in slow motion, I think that if we were to look at it at full speed, that was one of the things I noticed with him, is that he kind of exaggerates his movements.
Now, that's what you want to see. I like that. Now, again, I don't mean to beat the kid up, because there is a part of this that I like. But if you go back and you look, and again, we're looking at him from with a pro perspective. Now you look at this, how he catches the football. We talk about hand placement, right?
Right.
Now, football, especially in the NFL, is that seconds can make a big difference, right?
Right.
So you see how he waits for the ball to come to him. If he were to just snatch it out the air, tuck it, and turn upfield, he might be in better position to make a better play against the DB. And it's I'm being critical, but then at the end you see he does something that I really like, and this is why a guy like David Boston was one of my favorite college receivers ever, is because he would catch that football and know the yards that he had to get. He'll duck his shoulder and get that first down, and you see that's what he did right there. He took on two DBs and he trucked the one. So I like that out of him.
Yeah, I like that a lot out of him. I even like that you can see some semblance of some hip drop to break on a harder break. I mean, he still needs to limit the number of steps, but you can see that he has that flexibility in his hips to do it, and that projects well for him if he takes to coaching and really working at his craft and getting better at hard breaks where he can make one step and do it. Now, I love your point about dropping the pads and getting the extra yards. But I also like the criticism of him trapping this ball with this underhanded, catch position with this hands technique, because again, I always call it a passive catching position. You're like you said, waiting on the ball rather than being active. And as you showed in on the screen earlier, having your fingers up and your palms forward rather than your palms facing the sky and clapping it into your hand, because you said he's being more aggressive. He's been more in control. He's saving himself time and seconds to turn upfield. And I think, and that is important at that level. I mean, that is the difference between being a big, reasonably fast athlete at the SEC and being a polished guy in the NFL.
Right. And even the body catches, you're fighting the football and you're making it. It's a lot harder to catch the ball with your chest, with your body, than with your hands. And that's something that you learn early as a receiver, and you would like to see him get better hand placement. We went through 4 plays and we've already seen 2 placement was not correct. And these are the kind of things that make him a raw receiver. Because another thing that we have to remember is this guy only played 1 year receiver in high school, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at, this is 2 years in. So, I mean, it's an unfinished product. He could definitely be someone that a team that has a really good receiver coach could really get the best out of him, because I think there's much more to get out of a guy like this. You look at the 9 touchdowns he's had this year. I mean, he's definitely a double-digit touchdown guy without a doubt. So it's just a matter of him falling into the right place.
Yeah, and again, we all talk about what is it that a player can do, and you're seeing right away that barring that one major hit, which to me was a very advanced play for even an NFL wide receiver, you're looking at that being a good play. If you're looking at it from that context you just stated, what he can do is catch the football. He may not do it right in the optimal way, but he can catch it. He shows that hand-eye coordination, and he's got the size. He's certainly someone that shows some evidence of knowing, again, how to sit down at the top of a stem.
Great point.
I mean, these are like you said, workable things. It's just that what you see is when people say, "Well, how come he didn't turn out good?" Well, he didn't turn out good because maybe he didn't work hard enough at his game. What are the things he needed to work at? Some of the little things in his game. What are these little details? Catching the ball with the right hand position, knowing that, because when you project to the NFL level, we're not projecting that this defensive back is going to be 6 yards away.
Amen.
We're going to project he's like 1 yard away or 2 yards away and closing at full speed. And if Turron Wilson doesn't catch this cleanly and the ball bounces up in the air, this is a pick six.
Yep. Great point. And see, the thing that a lot of people don't understand is just how habitual this game is, right? So in this case, as you mentioned, you had the DB 6 yards or so off of him. So he could get away with making that body catch. But when that DB is closer, and remember he's catching the ball with his chest, that DB hits him, that ball pops out. But if you're a strong, if you snap Alshon Jeffrey, excellent example. If you're a guy that snatches the ball out the air, by the time that DB is hitting you, you already have the ball cradled to your body. So that's a way that you could secure catches in traffic. And again, this isn't a situation where that would apply, but it would apply just because of the habits that you form as a pro, and in this case, as a high level college player.
Yep. And habits, like you said, that's such a great point about habits, because performance is really nothing more than practicing good habits to the level of to where you want them to desire to be. Because once you're on that stage and the lights are on and things are happening, all you have to rely on is those habits that you've ingrained in you, which is whether what you observe, watching film, as well as the techniques that you've developed on the field time and time again. And if this ball pops up, not only are we looking at this defensive back who we're projecting in the NFL would be somewhere around here. If this ball pops up, you also have an inside linebacker who, if the ball bounces a little bit to the inside of the hash, he careens undercuts the ball. You also have this defender over here. So you have really three players who might very well be in the area to make this type of generate a turnover like that. So we've worn this one out, but it's definitely. But I think that's you can see how rich it is to look at, what you're looking at, not only what they do, but projecting what they'll need to learn, as well as understanding when we're evaluating what we're looking at that may not be literally on the tape, but using that NFL lens to put over the top of this game.
Uh-huh.
So I liked that. What about you?
Yeah, that was fine. I mean, he didn't. Yeah, that's fine. You would like to see the route just a little bit deeper, but at the same time, we don't know the depth of what the route was called to be run, because a lot of times they have a guy run a route short of the sticks and rely on, in this case, his size to be able to get that first down. But I mean, he turned, he ran the route flat. You don't see him drifting, and that's one thing that you absolutely cannot do when you're coming across the middle. And you see him, he just breaks right down the line. So it's a good route.
Yeah. I mean, I like how he turns that back leg, that outside leg over and right where I just meant to freeze it, but I started it over right there. That leg, this leg here coming over, it could probably come around even more. I know that Chad Spann had talked to me about doing karaoke exercises, types of drills to get those hips flexible and to get practice where getting around like that so that you can flatten out. But you see a good, for the context you mentioned where this is a developmental receiver in a certain way with low experience, you're still seeing someone who with a little, not as much experience as you would expect from a senior, being able to execute this type of a break and do it reasonably well. Again, that's another promising aspect. If you're viewing him as let me get him into a good coach's hands and give him time.
Right.
See that? Right. See, I just, that just bugs me. That's the thing that.
Without a doubt. Preach.
Yeah. It's just unnecessary. If you're playing, he's not facing press, but if, he makes exaggerated movements when he's even facing a tighter man. And if he tries something even remotely like that against a defender on top of him, he's going to get knocked on his butt.
Knocked right over. Eliminated from the play. And you see that little hop step that he took, that wastes time. That quarterback, when he gets to the top of when he gets, at the end of his drop, he's ready to let the ball go. Now, I'm not going to say that he was the primary target on this one, but if he's releasing hard off the line of scrimmage, that's going to push him back even further. That's going to push his man back further. You have to. In this case, this is one of those. They have two goals on the outside, and this guy was open somewhat, but you look, if you have another route underneath that or something along those lines, you really need to be able to move your defender without actually getting in contact with him. And the way you do that is by a hard release. And you have to bust it off the line of scrimmage every time. And that's why that hop bothers me so much, because it's just a waste of time.
Absolutely. And I love that point you made about really what that does to affect the defender's position, because the routes are interrelated and they work together to get the primary guy open sometimes, depending on the scheme. And if you are wasting a moment of time, then you're giving the defense more time to read what's happening, as opposed to having to react to what you're doing that's threatening them. A more savvy defender might have looked at this, had a little bit more time to diagnose what's going on, and peel off of this route.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, certainly I just love how you highlighted that there.
So that was more or less he was just trying to set up for the running back there coming off the line.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad. I mean, he got right into his route.
Yep. Would you have liked, I'm just curious, would you have liked him to play a little bit faster and loose with this and maybe have a little bit of an elbow brush with number 45 here?
Yeah. A little contact definitely wouldn't hurt. It
Okay.
definitely wouldn't hurt. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking that like maybe they could have had this more like a rub route, but it's interesting because a guy that size, sometimes you hit a linebacker or just a player not expecting that you can knock him over, and then it's a flag. That's the only
Yeah.
drawback.
Yeah. The only other thing I could see, again, this comes down to precision, and it's a minor point, and it's a very learnable point with the Runyon Wilson, is I think once he makes this break, if he could whip that head around a little sooner so that he's looking to the quarterback and selling it a little bit more, he might catch the glimpse of the linebacker, seeing that and make the linebacker pause.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very minor thing, and unlikely it would have happened on this play. But it's just again about selling every route.
Right. Now, one thing I like that he did right there is when the DB tried to get his hands on him, he did a good job of just kind of smacking him down. And I like that, and that's something that you have to be able to do, get their hands off you. So I definitely give him credit for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's a little hard to see at the corner of the scoreboard that we got on the broadcast here, but you see that chop move just kind of
Mm-hmm.
flash in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, where he just chops down right there.
And I tell you what, DBs hate that, man. They cannot stand, because you're constantly hitting on that forearm, and they can't stand that, man.
Yeah.
It's funny, the kind of games that go on within the game, but that's definitely one of them. And then, yeah, let's go ahead and play that back real quick.
Yeah, let's see if we can find it. This part here or the beginning?
Yeah, I wanted to see if he was down here. Yeah, he was down,
Okay.
but he still had the awareness to pop up and run.
Yeah, I mean, that's you want that aggressive mindset just in case that didn't work out, that it turned out that he wasn't.
I love his release on that one. You almost knew for sure he was getting the football. You knew, because he dug down and we're talking about a 6'5" guy. Look at that. Look at that condensed target. You have the corner at the line, and he was able to condense his body. Obviously, it's not press in this case, but he's up at the line, so you don't know what the receiver or the corner is going to do for sure when he's at the line of scrimmage. In this case, he bailed, but either way, he did an excellent job of running this route. I mean, this is one of the routes that it was almost like he knew for sure he was getting the football, and it was like the coach told him, "You better catch this darn rock or else." And that's how he ran the route, and he caught it right there. And that's a great play. I like that. That's what you like out of him.
Absolutely, and the adjustment for that big frame to go against your momentum on what's essentially a back shoulder fade here, or at least the way it turns out.
That's solid.
Yeah.
That's solid.
We're going to get a closer look at this. And this is something that Kelvin Benjamin does very well.
Mm-hmm. They set him up outside on top of the numbers and just let him go to work.
Yeah. And look at the catch with the fingers. You're even going to see the ball move just a little bit, kind of like have a recoil because his fingers getting that grip on the ball.
Yeah, look at that.
And when you catch with your fingers, if the ball slides through some of them, you still got 4 more on each side.
Those are those catches.
The first one, yeah.
They make that sound too. It's like that when you catch it, and that's when you know you really a nice hands catch right there, because it just stops.
Yeah, definitely.
There he is, red zone.
I like this release too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's trying to show movement and kind of a vigorous kind of movement with the knees high here. You can certainly see more advanced techniques of what people do to kind of get movement side to side. But what he's doing here, I kind of dig, where it's, he's keeping the knees high. He's trying to enforce like a faster pace without having to do so. And then you got that inside move with a little bit of a head fake and shoulder fake.
Mm-hmm. Just essentially running the DB out of the play.
Yeah.
Which that's just as good as blocking, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite plays I saw today was of a tight end at Washington by the name of Joshua Perkins, who I think is more of a Y player than he is a true tight end. But it was a run play where where it was an end around or a jet sweep actually to his teammate, and he was the lead blocker playing like kind of the H-back, and he comes across the end, and the linebacker comes to that end to greet him, and he makes this move that totally baits the linebacker, because at first you watch it, you go, oh, he like comes towards the linebacker and then tries to avoid him. And you're like thinking, you're the blocker. Why are you trying to do that? And then you look at it again, you realize that he set the linebacker up by coming at him and then coming away and just totally baiting the linebacker, because the linebacker could not help himself, going, oh, you're going to try and run away from me now? Okay, let me hit you. And he turned his shoulders away from the ball carrier, not even realizing that it was a run play, and hitting this Joshua Perkins, and the running back running right underneath him. And it was just like, it was such a nice little clever fake out, because he just played on the defender's instincts to want to hit somebody.
Yeah, and that's you don't always have to get involved in all the contact, man. You could do things to take your defender out of the play and still do your job, and that's an excellent example of it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, certainly it's nice to see he's got a variety of, running, and there again, compact space.
Now with this, I would like to see, now it's tough because the throw is a little bit, you want to see this throw like more towards the back corner. Actually, did you watch the Cal game today?
I did not.
Let me tell you, I'm not a huge fan of Goff, but he made a throw to Kenny Lawler in this type of situation, and it was just like right over top of that pylon there, and he just was able to just catch it and bring it in. It was perfect. And you
Yeah.
want to see this ball have a little more. How can you put
Arc.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit more arc on it. And I know he was trying to touch it in there, but these are the type of situations where you have a guy who was a parade All-American in basketball, you know, um, definitely able to box out and get position. So you want to give him the opportunity to do that. I think the ball was just slightly underthrown, or maybe Derunya could have throttled down right there, but you want to be able to get position, and you want to see a ball a little bit deeper there.
Yeah, I agree. And certainly I've seen Goff make his share of throws to Lawler like that. There was one,
Yeah.
what did I see the other day? Arizona State and one against you, I think against Utah I even saw. Um, or it might have been Texas. I don't know. I've seen at least a couple like that. But yeah, I mean, he gets held up here a little bit, but you got to think that I agree with you. I think Runyon is expecting this ball to go to the pylon, and it was just underthrown.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And when you look at these type of plays, these are the type of things that make you think, okay, can he be a better red zone guy? You
Yeah.
know, and right there you get a good idea, because you know that he's going to give that hard move inside and then go outside. So you know the DB is going to be inside. So you want to give him a little more over this shoulder here. You want it to go over as
Yeah.
opposed to the inside one, and that's why he has to play almost a DB to keep the corner from making an interception.
And he does a good job of it, because we're going to see in the replay where he grabs the shoulder pad, the outside shoulder pad, and jerks the man backwards so that there's no way number 18 is going to hang on to this football.
Yeah.
Because watch him come around right there. Yep. And it's perfect right under the shoulder pad like that.
Yeah.
But I like the start of this. I really do like the first few steps in the stem, like you said, getting low like that, driving off the line, selling that vertical concept.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
I think that's Trey. Yeah, that's Trey Davis again. So he's going against NFL. I mean, this guy, if he comes out, he'll be a guy that'll be drafted in the first 2 rounds. You know, as a corner.
Yeah, and a lot of what he's doing is coachable. I mean, hand placement. Probably like to see the hands a little higher instead of putting that hand out at the yoke of the neck. Maybe having it over the shoulder pad, having this outside arm over the shoulder pad a little bit more. But again, he's anticipating this ball probably to be further in the corner. So the fact that it isn't, maybe he's a little confused as to where this is going to land.
Right.
All right, let's do this one more time. I think hey, folks, let's go back to the run you. Let's see here. All right, there we go. All right. Can you see that now?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, good. And he seemed too focused on pulling down. It even looks like he's too focused on pulling down the corner. Look at him. He really should be called here.
Yeah, that's illegal hands.
Yeah.
Offensive interference, whichever you want to call it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like the physicality. I like some of the aspects of that play, but I don't know about you. I think it's teachable. I mean, I think I see some teachable elements. It's just that he has a lot of little teachable elements that he's going to have to work on.
This is a guy you get late in the 3rd round, 4th round, something like that, and he won't initially be productive. Well, I don't want to say that. He may not be as productive initially, but he's a guy that you'll see suddenly just start balling. You know,
Yeah.
and that's, again, depending upon him falling in the right situation. The thing I like is you see on this play is he does know how to use his body to shield the defender. I mean, this is textbook right here. There
Yeah.
are some situations. Now, you got a guy like Michael Irvin catches everything this way, you know, but there are some situations where you have to catch it like that because you can't extend your hands out because you're right there with the DB. So sometimes you have to catch the ball that way. And And in this case, he does catch it the right way.
Absolutely, and I think that's a great point. I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to say the same thing, and I love the point about Michael Irvin because there's always exceptions with this too. Because as you listen to these things, and if you're an avid listener to the RSP Film Room, and you start, and you listen to some of the great guests we have, like Turron or Emery or Sigmund or a number of different people who come on, and we give ideas of things that we've learned, that we know, technique that we understand, that there are always going to be a handful of players who come along and do things not by the book. And then you can look at it and go, well, this Michael Irvin guy, I'm watching his tape against Oklahoma, and he's always underhand and bucket catching the ball like this.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to really improve that. Probably a wise scout somewhere probably looked at that and said, does he ever drop a football? Does
Right.
he make the play in difficult circumstances? Is this an embedded technique that works well enough for him that it's not hurting him and he's only making plays that a handful of people can make? If the answer is yes to all of those things, then who cares whether he bucket catches the ball on every target? But I agree with you here. This is important where it is. I love how he slaps the arm down and chops through. He bodies up on the man really well. It's just a nice adjustment all around.
Mm-hmm. That's a thorough play by him. So you're looking at 2nd and 6, and he gets the first down for them, catches it. And now this is very similar to the route we looked at a minute or so ago,
Yeah.
when he was coming across the middle, and he wasn't targeted. But you look here, he got the ball, and the first down is there. The route is in front of the sticks, but again, they're relying on his ability to get that extra yard or two that they need to get the first down.
And here's a point that you hear a lot of people make, which is don't let your kids specialize only in one sport. Let them play multiple sports. You mentioned that he's a parade All-American as a high school basketball player. Now you tell me, if all he did was play football, he might very well have tried to spin out of this and try and dive forward for the first down, which might have been leverage-wise more difficult to do. But instead, he makes like he's in the lane.
like Mark Jackson, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Mark Jackson used to start at the top of the key and back the point guard down, man. And that's what he's doing right here, just backpedaling and pushing him back.
Yeah. All he needs to do is kick it out to Chris Mullen, and we could have a exactly. But no, I mean that's just knowledge of your body and understanding how to use your leverage and power. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's like, no, I mean, I just made sense to back it in there like that.
Mm-hmm. Tapping out for a second.
Yeah. So, okay, let's see. Hurt his hand a little bit, it looks like, on that play. Hand or wrist. All right, so let's see if we can get to all right, here we go. Back in the game, late fourth quarter. I really do like how he gets low consistently there. That's a nice nice element. Yeah.
A really good job of now in this case, he didn't. I'm not gonna say he came back to the football. Well, he actually did. And it's a nice smooth route that he ran. And you look how we go back to what we said earlier about releasing hard off the line of scrimmage. He does that, and look what releasing hard does. If you see, he gets the corner to open his hips, and now the corner is thinking in his mind that this is a vertical route. Look at how he's open. His next step, this foot or this arm is coming around, and he's defending the deep route, and that's what allows him to stick his foot in the ground and come back. And you see him doing that, and that's an excellent route right there. And that's advanced, to be honest with you. So I like that. You look at the condensed. He's smaller in the release, so you have to like that about a guy that's 6'5". You got to remember he's 6'5".
Yeah.
This corner is 6'1", and he's condensed himself to be just as tall as that corner.
And do you think he's really 215 still, or do you think he's a good bit bigger than 215 right now?
I think he's got 230 all day.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I don't know. I think my favorite thing would be is like we need to like take a bunch of scouts to a carnival and have them guess weight. You know, I think
Yeah.
that would be probably one of the more fun things to do. But you know, the good ones would probably get um, exiled from the carnival, not allowed back in. But but we're looking to look at. I agree with you. I mean the fact that he runs them off like this and that consistency of this drive phase and going through, also because he's trying to break inside and he's got a defender playing that inside technique, you're going to have to do something to sell him downfield and then be able to cut underneath the way that he did, because we don't see what happens at the break, but it's you can pretty much gather from what we see on how routes work that he's breaking underneath and he's breaking at a sharp enough angle where he does come back. I mean, the break has to be the way my cursor's going, a little bit more curved back like this, and those arms are out. Maybe not as completely out as you would want to see, but he still attacks that ball better than what he did.
Yeah, and you know the thing I like that he did, and this is why I called it advanced. If you look at where he lined up, right? So we're lining up right inside the numbers, okay? And he ends up catching the ball inside the numbers, right? You got the DB lined up just a shade inside, and what he does, watch how he widens the route. Like he opens space. Now he gives him a move. Now look where he is. He's over top of the numbers, actually outside of them.
Yeah. Yep.
And then that's what gives him that space. He's creating space within the route, and that's having a thorough understanding of how things work. And I like that about him. So that's definitely a good thing, a feather that he should put in his cap for sure.
Yeah. And notice that the plays that he's making on a lot of these are the tough inside in the middle of the field routes, comfortable with contact, whether he's winning or not. The comfort with contact is there. You know, maybe he could have, that first play we saw where he's on the scramble, Joel, crossing to the opposite side of the field and taking that big hit from the cornerback peeling off at the beginning of the game. Maybe we were very critical of that, you know, in terms of what he could have done to avoid that contact. But no one's worried about, he's not a big man trying to play a little man's game.
Mm-hmm. See, look at that. Look at you don't want the double catch, but look at how, and this is where that size thing and the threat that you present to the outside. Look at how the corner's playing him, right?
Yeah.
He releases off the line that the corner right away is turning like as if he's running to the pylon,
Yeah.
right? You see him? So look, he turns.
Yep.
And just that subtle turn, he's able to give that lean and then get back inside. And once he gets inside, like this right here, this is curtains.
Yeah.
That's curtains. That ref should be putting his hands in the air right now. You
Yeah.
know, because it's almost automatic that you have a touchdown. Of course, you have the double catch, but at the same time, he's got perfect position. So that's definitely something that you like to see. And even though it is a double catch, his hands are there. You look at where his
Yes.
hands are.
Yes. Look at that. And this is one of the biggest things I've always tried to preach about why you attack the ball at the earliest window with good hands technique. Because when you do this, it's a fail safe. It gives you a fail safe mechanism when you miss the ball, because you're not always going to catch it doing perfect
Mm-hmm.
technique. But say, here we go. Let's try one more time here. Say that ball bounces off like it did. Well, because you had your hands forward and they were away from your body, it allows the ball to pass through your hands and bounce off your body, and you get a second chance at the ball. If you just have the ball bounce off your body as the first thing that happens, and then you're trying to catch it with your hands, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. You actually slow down the trajectory of the ball a little bit because it passes through your hands first. You also are getting square to the target, and because you're attacking it earlier, you're going to create second chance opportunities like this. They don't always bounce your way, but in this case they did, and he's prepared for it.
Yeah, and that's one of those occasions where you do what they call showing the quarterback your numbers. You know,
Yeah.
he squared himself up and just gave a nice target for the quarterback. And yeah, as you mentioned, the double catch. And the thing, when you have a double catch off your hands, typically it goes in the air and you could grab it again. You
Yeah.
know, when it bounces off your body, typically it goes right down to the ground, and you're just like this, you
Yeah.
know. And here he had the awareness to catch it after, he dropped it. So good play right there
Yeah.
for Durant.
And he got hit pretty hard and
Mm-hmm.
wrapped while he's making the second chance opportunity. And then still after that contact has the awareness to realize that he's not in the end zone. He's got number 45 bearing down on him, and he has no problem diving across and extending the ball across the plane.
Getting in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And that's
So
what you want to see out of the big receivers. You want to see it out of any receiver, but especially a big guy who typically you're thinking, well, when he lines up outside like that, you're like, okay, it's fade route, in the red zone. So you want to be able to threaten on the inside as well. So excellent job there. Let's see
yeah.
what he does in this one.
And you mentioned, and one other thing you mentioned, we talk about him as a prospect and learning different techniques that he needs to learn. And a good example of a player who seems to be developing a little bit by little bit, who I think had similar, maybe not similar issues, but he didn't always use the correct hand technique to catch the ball, and he had a lot of drops. But he was a big physical prospect, speedy, athletic, could make some really nice plays and use his size, was Quincy Enunwa.
Mm.
And Enunwa is still hanging around with the Jets. They haven't let him go at all. And he seems to be getting on the field here and there in key moments more often.
He had a really big play for them on Sunday, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So, keep in mind that just because they don't hit right away doesn't mean that they're never, that it's never going to happen.
Well, the thing that's always going to be attractive about De'Runnya Wilson is his size, and along with that size, his ability to move, you know, and I think a lot of that comes from his basketball background. He knows how to move at his size, so that's a good thing. And even, on a play like this, you would like to see a better throw. And I thought that this was going to be a throw where he was able to box out. But what I was going to say is on those type of throws, you really see his basketball background because he's really able to post up and then go and get that rebound, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Establishing position is, we had one play where maybe he could have established it better, but he was expecting a different placement for the target. Everything else, it really has been about him establishing good position, and he's done that well. Once again, look at that break.
That's clean.
Yeah.
Works his way back to the football. He's really. Go ahead.
He just gets those hips all the way around. He's very conscientious about turning the hips all the way around so that he gets that sharper break.
He really does a good job of selling the deep route. And if you look all the way up to this point, everything that we've watched, he hasn't really caught too many deep passes, but yet over and over again, you got this corner opening up to the outside because he really fears his deep ability. And De'Runnya is doing an excellent job of selling it.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. If anything, the difference between he and Kelvin Benjamin, to me, like if we're going to talk about, comparing and contrasting him with Kelvin Benjamin, it would be Kelvin Benjamin seemed like a guy who had lapses of concentration or understanding of certain things that you felt like he sometimes did well and sometimes he didn't do well. Whereas what I'm seeing, if this holds true with other aspects of other games that we watch of De'Runnya Wilson, what we're seeing is a guy who may not know those things, but what he knows, he does well.
Right. He knows how to get position, good release, widen the route. This is a good one
Yeah,
to see here. Look at that.
yeah,
And again, this isn't some guy that's going to be an insurance salesman in 2 years. You know what I mean? This
no.
guy's going to be playing on Sundays, and he's beating him up. Look at that.
Yeah, that's kind of almost like a club move to the with the right inside arm, and then he comes over the top with the chop.
Yeah. And the thing that I like is, I'm sure that this even well, I'm not going to say I'm sure, but judging from how this quarterback is looking at the progression, like this is the backside, so he's clearly not the number one target, but still to see him show that effort on the routes is that's important,
Yeah,
and I commend him for that.
yeah, I agree. And it's good placement with the hands. I mean, I get excited when I see receivers know how to use their hands and be able to do
Yeah,
this kind of work.
yeah.
There's a guy, Caleb Jones, I watched this week at Arizona, and
Hmm.
Caleb Jones. Actually, Caleb Jones and his opponent were having a mini Odell Beckham, Josh Morris showdown in the with each other, in this game. But you'd see Jones try to club his man a couple of times like that, but he was doing it in a way that was really raw, and it was kind of like somebody throwing big roundhouse shots, without any discipline. Where this was actually used with purpose.
Yeah, you could see it, and it's and I mean, granted, they got the first down, but 3rd and 4, this is one of those plays where the quarterback could come back to you on the backside and really try to stick it in there. So you definitely want to be ready, and he was.
Yeah, I love the comment that he's just you can see that he's an attentive player.
There you go.
Yeah,
This is using that body. And again, look how he gets the DB to commit. Look, he knows where he wants to go. The DB, knows where he doesn't want him to go. You can see it. Look at that.
yeah. Widens the route like you showed before, gets the hand over there, comes over the around the corner, and I bet you anything that he put the arm over that outside arm over the inside arm of the corner.
He saves the quarterback too. You see how he threw that off. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
you never throw a floater on a curl route like that, but when you have a big guy that could box out, you could get away with it. But most receivers, the DB's going to run through them and pick that off.
yeah. But with our man here, he's basically dealing with an A gap pressure in his face, throws it off balance. And I like how he just kind of hangs in the air. He's like, okay, yeah, go ahead and try and run through me.
Yep.
Let's see how much you can move 230 pounds in the air. Not a lot. Okay.
I like this kid, man. I like him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see exactly what you're saying. And it really is about the context of going, okay, what can he do? What do you think he can learn? And what can he contribute? How can he contribute right away? And yeah, I'm with you. I'm not sure he's going to contribute right away for a team, but I wouldn't rule it out based on some of the things that he offers right off the bat like this.
And I think another thing that factors in with a guy like this is you can move him around. I mean, you see this game that we've watched, and he's played on the slot, he's played outside, and I'm a big proponent. I love putting big receivers in the slot position. I call it a power slot. It's
Yeah.
almost like power forward type of situation in the paint. And I like to do that. And you could run the corner route with them, that smash combination. And it's definitely a good opportunity to take advantage of the guy's size.
Yeah. And they know at this stage of the game, it's like, you can't stop me. We've seen 3
Mm-hmm.
routes where he's run basically this route and won every single one. Well, not this one, but he's getting open.
Right.
and we're not going to get a great angle to see whether or not his complaint about interference is true, but certainly that's not, not bad at all. Yeah, this was definitely a fun watch with you, because I mean, we get a chance to. I think context matters so much with this, because I think if we're looking at him and we're saying, is he going to be the next Kelvin Benjamin? And the question is framed from, is he going to be 1,000-yard rookie receiver who's going to score double-digit touchdowns right away? If that's your expectation, you're probably going to come away disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
But as you framed it, is he a guy who can do what Kelvin Benjamin does eventually? Can he eventually become that kind of a player? And then you look at it from that standpoint, and you go, well, like as you said, he can release from the line of scrimmage. He can use his hands in a couple of different ways. He knows how to use his stem to manipulate a defender. He's fine with bodying up players and is totally okay with physical contact, and makes plays even with contact, coming into him. You can see that where that trail leads to Kelvin Benjamin if everything works out well. And you can see that it's a matter of, why wouldn't I take a chance on this guy, later in a draft?
Yeah, I mean, I think he would be the ideal late third, fourth round pick. I mean, and you put him on. I cover the Ravens, so naturally I'm going to look at that type of situation. You put him with a guy like Bobby Ingram. Like, I watched Bobby Ingram work with Rashard Perryman, and let me tell you something. Perryman was more raw than you or I or mostly anybody thought. And I learned that talking to him. I mean, this guy didn't even understand how to balance himself in his stance. He didn't understand how to truly get in the stance and get explosion off of the stance, and also how to drop his hips as he turned in his routes. But you saw him from OTAs to minicamp really learn how to do that. And it was just nice to see a guy benefit from coaching. And I bring all that up because you take a receiver coach like Bobby Ingram, who I think is one of the best in the NFL. I mean, we remember the days he played, when he was working that slot with Seattle.
Yep.
But
Chicago.
I think that he's one of the best. Yeah, he broke in with Chicago. But you take a coach like that and put him with a guy like Turron, there's so much that can happen. Even Darren Waller, watching his progression, there's some guys that came into the Ravens raw, but Bobby Ingram really brought them along, and it was nice to see them blossom, that light going in their head, and them understand the position much better.
Yeah, and and people may go, well, wait a minute. How long, how realistic is it that these guys are going to develop into something worthwhile? I mean, can you really win with receivers like that, who are developmental prospects? But the answer would be, well, Seattle. Look at Seattle. People, we spent a long time. I've heard a lot of people in the media talk about how bad Seattle's receivers were, all the way through to them going through 2 straight Super Bowls, and now watching Doug Baldwin catch fire.
He's balling.
Yeah. And it's just like, Jermaine Kearse seems to do just fine. And remember, those are guys that weren't considered the guys that they were going to develop. I mean, Tyler Lockett was the guy, was that guy, but Paul Richardson is a guy that certainly they were counting on to be something before he got hurt. And so, I mean, to them, Kearse might have been a guy that stayed as a reserve, and Baldwin is maybe a slot guy, but you can see that they were more than capable enough of stepping up once the Seahawks got an offensive line issues ironed out. And I will note that you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people didn't realize Rashard Perriman was as raw as he was, though I will say that, your colleague, Mr. Gene Clemens, came on the show with me, and we broke him down. And and speaking of comments, we had a lot of Brashad Perriman and Ravens fans who were not all too happy with us, talking about how he had some things to learn. It didn't mean that he wasn't going to be a good player, but that he wasn't going to be an impact guy right away. Now, injury may have been a factor there, but I think that what you mentioned supports a lot of what we saw on tape too, is that he didn't look like a guy who understood how to use his body to maximize his athletic talents.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's funny, you mentioned Doug Baldwin. When we were kind of going back and forth about guys, I mean, obviously Duranier has been one I wanted to do, but the name Sterling Shepard came up, and when I watch Sterling Shepard, I see a Doug Baldwin type receiver. So I'm looking forward to, if you get to break him down, I'm looking forward to seeing your input there. I believe he's going to be at the Senior Bowl as well. So that's going to be awesome. See, this Senior Bowl, and I have to give Phil Savage and the crew credit for the guys that they bring in. I mean, this is going to be an awesome group of guys that we're going to get to watch, man. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, me too. And there is one guy, I don't know if he's coming, but I just saw him last night, and you probably knew him before I did, but last night I was watching Southern Miss, and I was watching a wide receiver, not Mike Thomas of Ohio State, but Michael Thomas of Southern Miss. And I watched him play Louisiana Tech, and there was a point in the game after he made, two incredible catches, that he made one that I literally paused it just as he was at the top of the catch point. That was basically a more difficult version of the iconic Odell Beckham catch. And I literally sat there, it was like 3 a.m. And I literally sat there and said, if this dude makes this catch, I'm quitting. Like, I'm done, because there is no way he is, after what he just did on this field for the first 3 minutes that I've been watching of him, there's no way he's making that catch. And he didn't, but he almost did. He came like this close. I was just thinking, but I would love to watch. That's a guy I'd like to watch with you. I think we need to watch Mr. Michael Thomas of Southern
let's
Miss.
do it.
Yeah,
let's do it. Yeah, we could definitely come back and do that, man.
So we will. But this was great as always. I think it was a very educational look at a player who has skills and latent talents to become a good NFL receiver, and why it may take some time, but at the same time, why it's possible, and why you have to project this way. So for Turron Davenport, I'm Matt Waldman. Thanks again for watching us, and you guys have a good night.